And the plot in Kenyan politics thickens. A very experienced, seasoned politician in Kenya makes the blunder of the century. Raila Odinga comes out and defends a company that is on the lips of every Kenyan, and not in a good way. Raila comes out and says, Adani are okay. Of course, shortly after the CS Energy, Bwana Ondai told us the Adani energy deal is okay. What? Anyway, quite predictably, Raila's remarks saying that Adani is a good company have caused a serious storm. I mean, I've received all manner of communications. Chris, have you heard? Raila says Adani is okay. Chris, say something. Now, what am I supposed to say? But for sure, this is a political blunder. And I'm beginning to get very worried for Raila Odinga. For those of us who have followed his career for years, this is not the kind of mistake Raila makes. What went wrong? I mean, Raila has always had this ability of sensing the mood of the public, even without his handlers. He gets up to make a speech, for instance. He's planning to say something different. And then when he gets up, and I have seen many incidences over the years, he seems to read the mood of the public, even with very little reaction from them, and usually ends up saying the right things. He's a politician. So what went wrong this time round? Folks, I fear the answer is simpler than most think. We are in the season of exposure. Even as the nation called Kenya goes through judgment, judgment also comes, usually with exposure. It is a spiritual law. Kabla hujanyorosha mtoto, uhakikisha anajua makosa yake ni nini. Na kama ajui, unamuonesha makosa. I believe that is what is happening. There is too much exposure in Kenya going down. Too much. Now, the latest that has really blown up everything is that the senator from Makueni, David Kitonga Manzo, has come out and told us that actually the Adani group sponsored, financed Raila's presidential campaign for the 2013 presidential elections. And according to Manzo, that is why Raila seems to have a soft spot for the Adani group. Actually, Raila's remarks have opened a can of worms. Sample the following. Opiyo Ondai is appointed Cabinet Secretary, Energy. Now, as soon as he gets into his office, right at the top of his entry, guess what he finds? I mean, it is pretty easy to figure out the files that were at the top of his entry. And one of those files must have been Adani energy deal. Now remember, by the time Opiyo Ondai is taking over as CS, there was already a lot of noise amongst Kenyans against Adani. In other words, Opiyo Ondai knew. Okay? A mere handful of days later, it tells us that the Adani energy deal is it. It is okay. It is a great deal. Hey! And then later even gives us an update on the Adani energy deal. And then now Raila comes out and tells us that Adani is not such a bad company after all. It is a reputable company. They have done business with the Israelis. security for the Israelis. Somebody else told us. Actually, somebody in the Raila camp trying to convince us. After there was so much hue and cry over Raila's remarks. What's going on here? Now, let's get something very clear. And let us even forget the controversies worldwide in different parts of the world associated with the Adani group. Let's even forget that. And I'm not saying it is not important. I'm not saying it is not relevant. But let us put it aside for a while. Even with that aside, this Adani thing is not good for Kenya. And it should be obvious because of a few very simple, logical, common sense reasons. Number one, you're guilty by association. Show me your friends and I'll be able to tell what kind of person you are. Who is Adani dealing with? Adani is dealing with probably the most corrupt government ever in the history of the Republic of Kenya. That one is not in contention. It is the truth. Number two, Adani was not involved in any competitive bidding. They did not follow the rules. Okay? So, what does that tell you about the reputation of this company? I mean, just think about it for a minute. If it was a company that really cared about its image, immediately people started making noise about Adani, they would have issued a statement pulling out of Kenya. Yeah? For the sake of their reputation. But what has the company done? Has it pulled out of Kenya? Has it behaved like a company which is guarding its reputation? How then can you tell me that Adani is a good company? How? I mean, there's some things which are very obvious. I don't think I need to say anything more. Okay? I think it should be pretty obvious that what Raila Odinga was trying to tell Kenyans cannot be true, is false. And if the reputation of Raila Odinga had already been greatly damaged by his actions of the recent past, then this statement on Adani has finished him completely. That's my opinion. Because, as I keep saying, vitu kwa ground may change. This is a different Kenya. I really don't see how Raila Odinga can come back from this one. I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies especially to the many supporters of the man who have been faithful followers of this channel for a long time. I'm sorry. But that's the truth. He can't come back from this one. No way. And the saddest thing of all is that this latest development and controversy seems to confirm the contents of my previous video. Very, very controversial video where I made some explosive revelations about the Chini ya Maji handshake between Raila Odinga and the Ruto administration. In case you've missed it, I highly recommend that you catch it. I'll leave a link in the description area of this video and also in the comments area. Make sure you take it in if you are yet to take it in. It is so sad, so very sad for this gallant, patriotic Kenyan who has done so much for the country called Kenya. But then I guess that is what you expect. When you're going through a season of exposure, like we are, nobody's spared. Even those whom you thought previously were safi kama pamba, they are not spared. And it seems Raila has not been spared. Because the claims by Bwana Manzo, Honorable Manzo, the senator from Makueni, that one of the foreign companies sponsoring Raila's campaigns in 2013 was Adani, that is a very damaging claim. Very damaging. And even Raila Odinga's recent moves, his recent statements are very suspect. Because it seems he has been very determined to try and prove to Kenyans that is against the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. But his MPs, his close allies, their behavior contradicts that. I think you'll agree with me if you're objective. And if somebody somewhere had had the thought that Raila magic, in the Ruto administration, or working with the Ruto administration, would finally enable the Ruto administration to get something right, to actually do something that works, then I think they need to think again. They need to go back to the drawing board. Because, sio matusi, what has the Ruto regime done since they took over that has been successful? Just name for me one thing. Everything they touch seems to fail. Finance Bill 2023, you might say, they passed it successfully. Nope. It was pulled down by a court of law in Kenya. I believe the matter is still in court. So even that, anybody who comes out and claims that it was successful, they saw it through, that is debatable. The most would say no. And if it is true that there were some elements within the Ruto regime who were involved in the General Gola Manenos, you remember the late General Gola? Then the crazy thing is that even that did not go right. Oh yes, there is something which went very wrong. This is a bit sensitive. And I actually talked about it in great detail in the special report I produced at the time on the General Ogola Manenos. Those of us here who got that report will know exactly what I'm talking about. Bottom line, nothing seems to be going right for the Ruto administration. And now it seems that the Raila camp has also caught that disease. Many of the things are starting to go wrong. Like this latest blunder of Raila sticking his neck out for the Adanis. Why? It was not necessary. It would have been better if Raila had just kept quiet. Avoided the topic altogether. For political reasons. Like he has done so many times before. What went wrong this time round? Why did he have to say something about Adani? And not only something, why did he have to say that Adani is a reputable company? That is a very wrong thing to say in Kenya right now. It doesn't matter whether it's factual or not. Hey, this is politics, whether you like it or not. And this leads me to another question. Although there are many Kenyans who are sure it's a done deal, the Gachagua impeachment, I need to ask, will the successful impeachment of Gachagua be the first successful project of the Ruto regime? I don't think so. Because there are going to be consequences even if they impeach Gachagua successfully. Most Kenyans I've spoken to, most analysts, fear that the backlash is going to have very devastating consequences on the nation called Kenya. And I am not a prophet of doom. I'm just simply trying to analyze the facts as they are on the table. That's what they're telling us. Apart from many other people who should know, agreeing with that prognosis. Oh boy, what a mess. What a terrible mess the country called Kenya is in. I cannot say much, but I'm sure you understand. But to get full details, you can take in my very latest special report. You can see all the details, payment details and all, in front of your screens right now. And pop, you'll not only have this report, with all those things I cannot say here, but you'll also have all my other previous, highly sensitive special reports, including the one on General Gola and what really happened. And tons of other information that will shock you to your bones. For only Kenya shillings 1999, Kenya shillings 1999, you can have all this pop in your inbox within minutes. Please rush, because this offer is very quickly coming to an end. O Ancient of Days, remember mercy for your beloved nation called Kenya. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.